What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back to review another episode of Sistas. Yes, I know I'm so behind, but I'm trying to play catch up. So this is going to be a review for episodes 2 and 3. So let's jump right into it. And I'm probably not going to go in the order of the episode, so just follow along. I promise it's all going to make sense. And I'm pretty sure we all felt the same about these episodes. So let's jump right on in. First, let me go ahead and start off with Sabrina. Or should I say Miss MIA? Because even though we have talked about Sabrina's storyline so many times within these past 2 episodes, we haven't seen Sabrina at all. I think that is so strange. I want to know, is she like filming a movie? Is she working on another project? What about Maurice? Like, we can't get no jail scenes. As many times as we've seen Zach go to jail, how do we get no jail scenes for those two? But I digress. Let me go ahead and jump on into Danny's storyline. So we start off with Danny and Preston. Preston is going on and on about how if Danny says that he shouldn't go marry Little Miss Misty, then he won't do it, and blah, blah, blah. Got this girl crying at her job because, yes, this is where he decides to do all this, at her job. And she's just like, just go. Just go. Like, I felt so bad for Danny in that moment because not only did he embarrass you at your job, but he put you on the spot, gave you an ultimatum about things that had nothing to do with you. Like, literally, him deciding to come to another city, get involved with another woman, even though he was in love with somebody else. Like, this just made Preston sound real questionable, and I don't even like his character anymore. He can go. I really think this should have been the end of Preston. I don't need him calling Danny no more. We can let this go, please. And then for the guy who had the crazy baby mama to circle back to Danny and be like, oh, well, here's my number, if you want to hang out sometimes. Sir, go be with your baby mama. Danny don't need no more drama in her life, especially the way your baby mama came at her job. So, here's the thing. Danny is the only person who cares about Sabrina and her well-being. The only person. Because she reached out to Andy like, hey, I haven't heard from Sabrina. That's weird. Like, we talk all the time. Something's not right. And Andy's like, oh, I'm pretty sure she's fine. I'm pretty sure she's fine. That has been Andy's whole MO. And I get it. I agreed at one point when Andy had a conversation with Danny later on in the episode about how these are grown women, referring to Sabrina and Karen. They're grown women, so you can't worry too much. But it is strange when you know information, like Danny knows how there was some type of investigation because they assume that Sabrina has something to do with the whole robbery. And then on top of that, this is this girl's best friend, and she hasn't heard from her all day long. And I know, like, some people, they talk to their best friend all day long throughout the day. I'm not one of those people. Like, me and my best friend, we love each other to death, but we are not attached in that way. Like, we can go a couple of days without hitting each other up, but we still pick up like nothing has left. So as far as Danny and Sabrina's relationship, they probably text each other and talk to each other all day long. You know what I mean? And it's crazy how Andy was so nonchalant about the whole thing, even though she is the one who's a lawyer. She's the one who has all these connections. Like, Andy, do your thing, okay? So, Danny, she even goes a step further, and she even pops up at Maurice's house to see if, Maurice is at home, if Calvin knows anything. Calvin's like, no, I haven't heard anything. But I have been getting a call from a correctional office, not realizing, hey, that's Maurice calling, you idiot. So, Danny tells Calvin, hey, if you hear anything from Maurice, let me know. Please, here's my number. See, Danny is taking initiative. So then Danny goes over to Andy's house. And what is Andy doing? Andy's getting her back blown out by Gary. And we'll get there. But I just want to focus on Danny at this moment. Because that whole scene, I was just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Nonetheless, Andy has a conversation with Danny. And Danny is like, you were so busy worried about, not worried, but you were so busy messing around with Gary that you didn't even check your phone. Oh, here goes Andy. Oh my gosh, where is my phone? Where is my phone? Oh, I have missed calls. And that was the person who was going to let me know about Sabrina. Andy does not like these girls. Let's be honest here, okay? She is not really their friend because she's not a good friend. And for her to be like, oh, let me go ahead and call this person back. So then she finally gets this information about what's going on with Sabrina. Come to find out, this is a federal case. She hasn't seen a judge. There's nothing they can do about it. And then, of course, Danny is panicking because this is her friend. She knows that Sabrina cannot handle jail. And Andy's response is, well, I mean, I'm a divorce attorney. Like, I can't do anything. But here's the thing. You weren't a divorce attorney when you helped Fatima get out of jail. You weren't a divorce attorney when you helped Zach get out of jail. So I'm going to need for you to put your big girl panties on and figure it out. Like, I feel like Andy had no motive, no motivation, no type of energy to give to this Sabrina situation. And I'm like, yo, what type of friend is Andy? Andy just ain't my kind of girl. I'm sorry. So, let me just go ahead and continue with Danny's storyline so I can go ahead and wrap that up. Here's the thing. Danny is already stressed out about what's going on with Sabrina. And then she receives another phone call. Who is it? Preston. Preston has already caught his flight, went to a whole other city, and then you're going to sit up in this girl's face. Well, not in her face, but you go blow up her phone talking about I will come back if you tell me to. I just want to talk to you. I want to take you out. Bye, Preston. We don't want to hear it anymore. She's moved on. She's done with you. At this point, I am so pissed off at what Tyler has done to Preston's character. Like, I get it. They definitely had their differences as far as he liked bluegrass and she liked hip hop. And yes, Preston used to do some weird things like pop up at her apartment and show up to places that he had no business going to. But I feel like there were certain things that him and Danny could have worked out. Like, I definitely feel like they could have come to an agreement that, you know what, we both need to give a little in this relationship to make this work. And yes, I've overstepped some boundaries, but I didn't realize that those were your boundaries, Danny. Like, at some point, those words should have been in a conversation, and we could have moved forward. We can't move forward no more because you got little Miss Misty back home who's waiting on you in the cornfields, okay? So, I don't want to hear no more from Preston because basically you're letting us know that you wasted Danny's time. You came out here to another city, got with with a black woman to see what that was like, to see if that could be a field trip for you. And then you still got old girl back home who's in love with you? Bye, Preston. We're done. There's no more that I need to see of you. If Tyler was to write a new show and give Preston and maybe a few of the other guys a job, because all the guys can go. Let's be honest. Calvin can go. Preston can go. Gary can go. Who else is on this show? I mean, Zach already got his spinoff. So, what are we doing here? But let me go ahead and move along. Since I mentioned, what's her name? Andy, let's go ahead and talk about her. She done came up with this bright idea that her and Gary need to write a list about what are the pros and cons of their relationship because she saw it in some type of movie. Now, I don't know if that was a reference to a Tyler Perry movie because I ain't watched all the Tyler Perry movies. But nonetheless, it was stupid because we've already been through this. How many times can Gary and Andy say that they're broken up, say this is over, for them to come right back together within the next few hours? And then we have to suffer as an audience because now they're back in a relationship or a situationship, whatever they want to call it. I am sick of Andy and Gary. Like, come on now. So this man, he pulls up to her house or whatever, gets into the apartment, writes down about 3 things on his list, and next thing you know, she's like, because we're not really good for each other. And he's like, well, I can work on these things. Same things he's been saying since, episode about 5? Like, I feel like the going back and forth between Gary and Andy, it has to stop at some point because it's not pushing this storyline any further. Like I said, Gary, he can go. So, next thing you know, Gary starts taking his clothes off and they hook up in the penthouse. I'm like, again, wasting our time. This is not pushing the storyline forward. I would rather see what's going on with Sabrina. Now, y'all already know, if you've ever watched my reviews, Sabrina is far from my favorite character. But I would rather see how she's reacting to jail than this foolishness with Andy and Gary. So, as we already know and I mentioned, Danny popped up on her, tried to send Gary on his way. So what bothers me is that after Andy, she says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and let Gary know to leave. Her and Gary had like a 5-6 minute conversation. I said, girl, you're not letting him leave. You're still talking to him. And he did not care that your friend was missing. I said, listen, ladies, you have got to pay attention to these men that you're dating. I know this is a TV show, but you have a whole friend that's missing and he's just like, I do not care about none of that. Let him go. Because the fact that he doesn't care that a whole human being is missing, someone who's like your ride or die, one of your closest friends is missing, let him go. No need for Andy or Gary. Yeah. I pretty much ran down everything that happened with Andy as long as it pertains to her and Danny. Yeah, she really didn't do anything besides make a few calls and let us know that it's a federal case and she can't do anything. The only thing that they can do is go to work and keep a smile on their face. Let's go ahead and hop on over to Karen. Because Karen, when I tell you, I'm tired of her being pregnant. So tired. I'm tired of the nasty attitude. And I realized something. She gets her nasty attitude from her mother. So let's go ahead and start on little Miss Karen. We're still at the hospital, right? Still waiting on these results. We've been waiting since I don't know how long for these results. Okay. Aaron pops up. Out of nowhere, Aaron has popped up. Now, here's the thing that bothers me. Aaron literally sat up there, pops up, is like, oh my God, what's going on? And the only thing that Karen can think about is, how'd you know I was here? Which is a valid question, because she didn't tell him that she was there. Pam didn't say nothing. How does he know? Now, I'm going to assume that same doctor friend that squeezed her in for that appointment is probably the person who sent him a text. That's the only thing that I can assume is how he knew this, right? Which I'm like, isn't this some type of violation for a doctor to allow somebody else to know some information about a patient? Like, that's random and they should be going to jail for that. But nonetheless, he gets there and he refuses to answer her question because Karen asked this man multiple times, how did you know I was here? Who told you I was here? Now, this is what got me. When she jumped to the conclusion that maybe it was Zach. Girl, Zach ain't even talked to you, so you know it couldn't have been him. Then I don't know how she got to Fatima. She literally's like, oh, I know it was Fatima. She literally grabs her phone, calls Zach's phone. Him and Fatima are having a good night, whatever. And she goes off on Fatima, calls her out her name. Is like, you out here telling my business, blah, blah, blah. And what bothers me is that Aaron is just standing there. And he basically whispered, it wasn't Fatima. It's Fatima didn't tell me. You're a grown man. You ain't gonna snatch the phone from her and be like, hey, I told you that Fatima ain't the one who told me. You basically let Fatima get cussed out for no reason. And later when he saw Zach, he probably should have apologized to Fatima for that. because that was so unnecessary. So Karen, like I said, going off on her. And then Zach is like, hey, you can't be like coming at her like this. And she's like, well, you didn't even call me, check on me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, okay. So that's where all this hurt is coming from. Because Zach does not care that you're in the hospital. Girl, you're forgetting. Zach don't care about you. Like, as much as people love to say that Zach is still in love with Karen, I don't know about that. Because the way he just is so distant from her and how he does not care for her, I don't know. I really think that he does not like her. He does not like Karen anymore. Like, he may have love for the person that Karen used to be, but the bitter Betty that Karen is right now, no, he does not care for that woman. So they get off the phone, right? Karen's mom come in there. First off, she keeps calling Aaron an accountant. I'm like, girl, where'd you get that information from? She like tells him he's stressing her daughter out, puts him out the room and all this stuff because I don't think my daughter wants you to be here. And it's like, well, girl, if she lose that baby, she's not the only one losing something, because you keep forgetting the possibility is that he could be the daddy too. Like, it's not his fault that Karen slept with him and Zach at the same damn time. Well, not at the same time, but y'all know what I mean. Like, it ain't his fault that he's a possibility. That's Karen's fault that he's a possibility to be a father. It's like, what are we talking about? So the doctor finally comes in, tell her she's fine, the baby's okay. I think her blood pressure was up, but she's going to be on bed rest. All right, cool. So Karen, she goes home or whatever, and Zach, he ended up stopping by because Fatima was pissed off at him. Fatima was like, listen, you have to check her because I really tried to be nice. And Fatima is not coming Karen crazy, regardless of how many times Karen has popped up on her. Because let's not forget, just last season, Karen popped up at the house. Karen tried to fight her in Andy's office. Like, Karen has been doing a lot. Oh, let's not forget the ambush that she tried to pull at Andy's apartment. So Karen has been doing a lot to Fatima, and Fatima has been shaking it off like water off a duck's back, okay? So, and it's crazy because Fatima was the one who actually cared when you were in the hospital. She was like, Zach, you should go see what's going on because it's potentially your baby. See if Karen's all right. But nonetheless, Zach goes over there because Fatima's like, you gotta check her. With Karen's mom, she ends up opening up the door, right? And I hated her attitude. Like, the fact that Zach is like, I need to talk to Karen. And she's like, well, you can't talk to her right now. She's on bed rest or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, fine. But once he mentioned how, Karen, she cursed my girl out. She called her out her name. She called her a B word. And then for her response to be like, well, is she one? I'm like, are you serious? You're too old to be acting like this. And I get it. Karen is your daughter. But at the end of the day, like, you have a nasty attitude. And I absolutely see that Karen gets all that nastiness from you. I'm sorry, but I do not see it for Karen or her mother. So the next day, Karen's mom decides to cook them breakfast or whatever, and they kind of have a little small talk at the table. And even though her mom was like asking about, is Zach the father or is Aaron the father, to me, she never held Karen accountable. As far as like, Karen, you put yourself in the situation. So it's not fair for you to absolutely push Aaron off to the side as if he's not potentially this baby's father. Same thing with Zach. You can't solely focus on Zach because you want him back and you are begging and pleading and wanting him to be this child's father when there's a chance that it might not be him. So at this point, you need to give them both an equal opportunity to know what's going on with you and just see how the cards play out. Because you put yourself in this situation. But I wouldn't expect for her mom to even hold her accountable because that's just not the type of mom that she is. But she did suggest for Karen to write a letter to both of them expressing how she feels. I said she already done told Zach how she feel, and Zach don't want her. And then she's already told Aaron how she feels, and he can't catch the hint. So I don't understand what a letter is going to do. Y'all, that was Karen's storyline. Y'all let me know what y'all thought about Karen's storyline, because I know I was over it. But let me go ahead and move along and just talk about the little, characters that were, storylines that weren't really that important. Well, they were important, but they just weren't from the main cast, okay? So let's start off with Fatima. So Fatima ends up letting Zach know that, she comes from a very ruthless family. We learn that she has a cousin who's way worse than her, and that she wants the cousin to be Zach. I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is, Zach, meeting her family. Cool, whatever. One thing I will say is that I really, really wish that Tyler would have had a distinct storyline that ties Zatima and Sisters together. Because the pace of Zatima does not match the pace of Sisters. So the fact that you have Deja bumping music, you have Deja at the gym flirting with Zach, like, who is this character? If a person has not watched Zatima, they are going to be so confused, because last time we checked, we are still in the same day that we've been in for I don't know how long, but also Zach did not have a tenant. Okay, Zach did not have nobody written next door, so I don't even understand how we introduced Deja on the sisters show. And I feel like because there are two different paces of Sisters and Zatima, that we can't really mingle the two. Like, I don't want to see the characters from Zatima on Sisters, because it just won't make sense. The storylines are not making sense, because now that makes me wonder, is Lord, let me stop. Is Fatima wearing an engagement ring? Because at this point, she's actually engaged to Zach. Sorry for anybody who has not watched Zatima, but that's what happened in Zatima, and it's not making sense in the Sisters universe. You get what I'm saying? So I just find it to be very strange. But yeah, I think it's weird that we have Deja here. I'm over it. Like I mentioned earlier, I forgot to talk about, they were at the gym, right? Zach and Fatima at the gym, whatever. And Aaron pops up, and he literally rolls up on Zach talking about I think we should have this conversation about Karen and how we don't need to stress her out. Baby, Zach said one thing, and I said, you know what? I stand by this man. Karen is stressing herself out. Karen put herself in that situation, so don't sit up here and try to blame Zach as the reason she's stressed out, okay? And the fact that he sat up in Fatima's face and didn't apologize, like, you know what, I was actually there when, Karen went off on you. She assumed that it was me who, that you told me that she was in the hospital for some reason. I'm sorry that she went after you like that. Like, that would have been the manly thing to do, but I've realized Aaron's not that guy either. So we just gonna leave that right there. So, the guys get into it a little bit, Aaron and Zach, and they're not friends. There's no reason for these two men to talk, honestly, and that's okay. Moving forward, Calvin. Y'all don't worry, I did not forget about Calvin. First things first, the fact that he checked in with Chris to see what was going on with Maurice, interesting, because you would have thought that once Chris found out, he would have told Calvin what was going on, but that's not what happened. So he checks in with Chris, and Chris is like, you haven't heard? Him and Sabrina, they got, framed by Q. As far as the robbery goes, he framed them for that. Okay, so now he's all mad. Calvin is a huffing and a puffing, right? Calvin then goes back home where Q is laid up in the bed with some woman, and here we go with this childish argument because he's like, get out the bed, come outside, or whatever. He's got his big man voice on. I'm just like, Calvin, ain't nobody scared of you. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, we're not going to be scared of you. Q finally comes out, or whatever, and they get into a little fisticuffs. They get into a little fight. And I'm just like, Calvin, you're losing again. Like, how many times will we see Calvin lose a fight? I'm tired. I'm tired of it. Like, you would think, considering, I would think that he would have got bullied growing up. Like, he would learn how to fight. Because Calvin got a lot of issues when you really think about it. But the fact that he has no skills when it comes to fighting, I need him to stop. And then for him to tell Q at the end of the fight that if he finds out that he's behind Maurice going to jail, then he's going to beat his ass. Are you? Because you couldn't do it right now. So how are you going to pull that off? I really want to know. How is Calvin going to pull that off? And Chris was no help either. I said, what is this saying? Throw it all away. So then we had another check-in with Calvin where he finds out about, what's going on with Maurice and how he's in jail. And what gets me is that he says he has $20,000 so that they can bail Sabrina out. Not, I have $20,000 so that we can split that amongst Maurice and Sabrina. That was just to get Sabrina out. I said, so are you planning on getting Maurice out? Like, what's going on here? Like, I'm just so confused with Calvin's character. I want him to go. He's another one. He can go. I'm so tired of the men on this show. But that was my review for episodes 2 and 3. Let me know what y'all thought about those 2 episodes. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I will be back to review episode 4. And then I'll be caught up, alright? So, bye, guys.